Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Summer School. Today, we're here with a super fun guest that I met in Nashville during imaging at a Visco event. And I got introduced to him as, like, I think someone called you a legend. I don't even know, but it was so
Oh
good.
my gosh.
And then when I looked up your work, I was like, whoa, this is so cool and very unique. And also has like 20 years in the industry or in industries of this sort. So I'm super excited to dive in with him. But before we get into Dave Hill, I got to shout out our sponsor, Narrative. Narrative is an AI culling and editing software. Specifically, I've been using it for culling for years within my photo work. So if you haven't tried Narrative, definitely hit the description in the show notes. Go ahead and try it out. And I can't wait to see what you guys create. Okay, Dave, I'm so excited to have you guys, have you here. If you guys haven't seen his work, go ahead and click to the Instagram if you're like not doing anything, not driving, obviously, and see some of the photos. I think your work is so unique, and I feel like most of this stuff, at least on Instagram, is so wide. And I was like, I have to talk to him because I mean, maybe there's more of this in your field, but in my field of weddings, I don't see this often, like anything like this. Like it's genuinely so unique. So I was like, I can't wait to chat with you, see where your mind went if you've always had a style like this, and just hear about your entire journey. So maybe just start with your journey. Like, I know you've done things outside of photography. I know you direct as well. Like, tell me a little bit about yourself. And we don't actually know each other. We met for like 5 minutes at the Visco event. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
maybe 5 minutes, maybe 30
maybe
seconds. It was
less.
not
Yeah,
much.
it was super short. So yeah, I would love to hear all the things.
All right. I mean, I can give you a quick little backstory. I grew up in San Diego, California. We're in '79, so a long time ago. Feels like now. And yeah, I grew up like in a pretty loose, free environment. My parents were cool. I did a lot of skateboarding, snowboarding, surfing, and stuff like that in high school. And my dad, I think around fourth or fifth grade, gave me like an old SLR camera. It was like, here's some darkroom techniques. Get a old darkroom enlarger. I don't know why he did. He was not really into it, but gave me an old camera. We developed some film, play around with that. And so, kind of like from fourth grade to like high school, I kind of had a camera around every once in a while. And then as my friends and I were like doing more adventurous things, we got cars, we had more freedom. I was the guy with the camera, kind of just shooting stuff, like in a very unserious way. But I think it kind of always made me feel a little special having the camera around in high school. So yeah, I grew up like reading Thrasher magazine, like always snowboard skate magazines where like everything was like wide angle and fisheye and just like in your face and kind of aggressive. So I think I always was approaching photography from that standpoint, like fashion, portraits. I didn't really care or think about that stuff in high school. It was like, where can I get access to with my camera and like what cool gritty things can I shoot? Um, I went to college in LA, UCLA to study mechanical engineering. And, at that point, art wasn't really even a possibility. Not that I wanted to, and someone said no. I just didn't even think about it as like a career.
Hmm.
It was just something I did for fun. And my dad was a scientist, and I thought like, well, I'll do something that's like can use my brain and math skills and do that. So started at UCLA with engineering. After like a semester, it was really tough. I hated the chemistry. I hated all that stuff. So I actually saw an advertisement in the school newspaper saying photo interns wanted, and then the UCLA newspaper was actually a daily like 30-page paper. Then it was pretty awesome.
Hmm.
I said, photo intern, what does that mean? Like photojournalism? Okay. So I applied to that, got rejected, kept suffering through mechanical engineering. And then the second semester got accepted to this internship program at this student newspaper. And that's where I was like, okay, use my camera for something that's real, not just like my friends, but like something that people are going to see. And I got super involved in that like pretty quickly. It was all film back then, all black and white film. Everything was scanned in daily for the newspaper. And so, yeah, through college, I dropped my mechanical engineering major the next year, went to history because it was kind of easy and fun. And then just like put all my time in the student newspaper stuff, doing photojournalism, lots of sporting events, lots of concerts, still skateboarding stuff. Kind of anything I wanted to do that newspaper got me access to. As I kind of shot more and more film, kind of working my way up into like the photo department. Yeah, I just fell in love with all different parts of photography.
Hmm.
Um, by the time I was a senior, I was the photo editor, so I got to kind of like rule the photo department there. That was in the year 2000, 2001. We got our first like digital camera, the Nikon D1, into like the newspaper bought it for us. So being the photo editor, I kind of like stole this camera and got to go to whatever I wanted to senior year. Shooting like politicians, protests, any kind of concert. Like I was super into music still and skateboarding and stuff. So yeah, it was like just it gave me access. My camera gave me access and kind of like made me feel special. And seeing your work published at age 20, 21 in a paper like was cool. Um, but I always kind of wanted to make films at the same time. I was really into movie making then and like doing short films and like wanted to like do that as well. And photography was still kind of like it was fun, but wasn't getting to my career. I had no idea at that point. I just loved it. And so then I graduated, and most of the people who were in the photo department all just went and became doctors, lawyers, like whatever else. And photography was like a hobby. I don't know. For me, I guess I liked it more than they did. Or I don't know. It was more of my identity or something. So after college, I got a random job at this other university in town shooting all their campus stuff called Loyola Marymount University in Westchester in LA. And yeah, by the age of 21, I was working full time for this campus gig, just doing like headshots, like kind of boring stuff, but like learning how to use Flash, learning how to have deadlines professionally. Like I was a full time photographer with a studio and making it work, on my own at the school. And yeah, I did that for 2 years. Got sick of that. At that point, my brother had already been in Nashville at the time for music, and so I was like, "I wanna ditch LA, try something new." So I quit that job at age 23, came to Nashville to shoot whatever. I had no plan. I just was, like, young and had no plan. Um, so I came to Nashville and started experimenting more and more with flashes. So, like, I was doing stuff, like, where I would take a flash into a field and get a battery pack or, like, actually a gas-powered generator from Home Depot and, like, start shooting people with flashes in the middle of fields. And at that time, like, nobody was really shooting that way. Like, digital was kinda new, and people weren't, like, experimenting with flash much. So, I was, like, adding more and more flashes and kind of, like, trying more and more weird things, like underexposing the background, making people look weird, maybe photoshopping a little bit of, like, crazy contrast or, like, even painting people a little bit. And I was just doing kind of weird stuff back then, and people in Nashville then were, like, old school, country music, Christian music kind of people. And so it was kind of easy to stand out. I got a couple I'm just rambling here, but you can stop me when
No,
you
tell
want,
us
but,
all the things.
yeah, I got a couple, like, artists I shot for, like, $60. I used to put flyers around town for, like, $60 photo shoots, and one guy I shot happened to be, like, best friends with this designer guy in Seattle, and he worked for a company who designed CD packages for, like, all these, like, emo, screamo kinda bands. And he saw me shooting his friend and was like, "I love your style, like, I wanna use that in a CD package. I'll pay you, like, $500." And I was like, "$500?" Like, my entire expenses per month were, like, 1,000 then. So, I was like, "Hell yeah." So, I shot a CD cover with this, company in Seattle called Asterisk Studios. They became Invisible Creature. And yeah, like, that one package led to another package, and it's pretty soon I was shooting all these, like, musician CD packages,
Mm.
while doing artist portraits on the side and stuff. So yeah, from 2003 to 5, I started doing, like I probably did, like, 30 packages in, like, 2 or 3 years there, and they became more and more, like, conceptual with, like, bigger lights and bigger budgets. um, I mean, there's a lot of detail in there but I'm missing, but overall, yeah, it was, like, those 2 years of just, like, shooting lots of personal projects while shooting CD packages, shooting a lot of bands in town. At that point, I was, like, showing my portfolio around town and getting more and more, like, band musician work here in Nashville. And so, yeah, that was, like, a pretty wild, like, 2 years as this stuff was kinda, like, taking off and that style was getting more and more developed. I started compositing more, so I would, like, shoot one band member, then, like, take him out, shoot another band member, take him out. I was, like, doing these kind of bigger composites with, like, tons of lights. And again, nobody was doing that in, like, a smaller budget scale. Um, I did, like, I don't know, yeah. I felt like I shot every band and every, like, CD package for that, like it was, like, kinda Christian emo-y, Tooth and Nail Records world, back then. It was pretty big. Um, Gosh, where do I go from there? So, yeah, I started shooting that until about 2005, and around then, I started getting more and more attention in, like, the rap world. I guess some, like, labels I was shooting for in town had, like, partners in New York and LA, and they had, like, big rappers were like, "We love your band stuff, shoot our rappers this way." I was like, "Okay, why not?" Um, so I think my first rap gig was a guy named Young Jock. He was in Atlanta, and he had a big summer hit that year. And so I went down to Atlanta with my brother and some friends, and we shot this CD package for this rapper, and turned out to be really cool. But again, big tons of lights, compositing everything. Everything was like very Photoshop heavy back then. Um, Shot Young Jock, then I shot Soulja Boy's first album, like another rapper guy in Atlanta. That led to I shot 50 Cent's group, G Unit, one of their albums, and a bunch more rappers in that same time. So I was like, going from like shooting guys in a field for like $60 to like shooting like major rappers with my brothers and friends in like 2.5 years.
That's
That
crazy.
was a pretty wild expansion at that time. I think my look then was very unique. It was very Photoshop heavy, light heavy, composite heavy, and just kind of looks surreal. I guess that was kind of my thing. At the same time, I got a photo agent who found me in LA, and she like loved my stuff. I was like, "I want to rep you for commercial stuff," and then we started doing more commercial stuff. I think Fiat in America had just like launched their rebranding in like 2009 or something like that, and they hired me to basically shoot the new Fiat cars, like my 50 Cent cover with a car in it. And I was like, sure, why not? I'll do cars. And I shot this like huge, like big spread for the Vanity Fair Hollywood issue around then. It was like a 3-page spread, like crazy sets we built. It was like a pretty big production for me. And yeah, it worked out really well. They loved it. I shot a lot more Fiat cars the next couple of years. Started doing other brands of cars, but all in this kind of very hyper real Photoshop world. At the same time, I moved back to LA like 2008. I kind of felt like I wanted to go back to the bigger market. So like 2008 to like 2014, it was just like tons of big ads, more and more compositing, more and more of Photoshop time. Like, I was getting like so sick of the computer at this point, though. It was just like yearning to get back to like my skateboarding, wide angle, like fun days. So 2014, I told my agent, I was like, I'm like done with compositing. I'm done with photoshopping. Like, we're going back to natural stuff. And she was like having a heart attack. Like, you make all your
She's
money
like,
doing
"Oh
these like
no."
big conceptual ads. What are you doing? And I was like, you know what? I don't care. Like, let's go for it. So she kind of stood by my side. And we started approaching some of the car companies, say, hey, what if we like did a whole different like fashion kind of looked at things and like just give me a try. So I did one job for Fiat where they let me do that, and it was accessible. It was really cool. It was like me and a Canon 6D and like no lights, just me like natural light moving around again, and it was fun. And so I'd say 2014 till now, we've just been developing that kind of naturalistic style while adding in like wide angle, fisheye, stuff like that, and like trying to make people like move and be energetic as much as possible. Um, yeah, so I still do a lot automotive. I still do a lot of just kind of big brand lifestyle stuff. All of it's though very similar where it's big energy. I like to get people moving and crazy and like shoot tons of bursts. And yeah, so that's kind of my photography career, I guess, in a small nutshell.
I need to see some of these composites now because I
Oh,
already
they're
like the
hilarious.
fisheye stuff. Like I freaking loved. I'm like, if I scroll far enough, will I see composites?
Maybe you could probably put like Dave Hill Fiat or something like that, or a Dave Hill composite. Just put Dave Hill composites. You'll see a ton
Would you
from
have
back then.
archived it on your Instagram, or if I scroll like enough, would I
No,
see
it's
it?
pre-Instagram. Instagram started in like what 2012, 13. By then I was already like not doing that
You're
stuff
like,
or
I'm
not
out
wanting
of
to.
here.
Like by
Darn.
2014 it was totally done. So yeah, Instagram will not show that. It was pre-Instagram.
Dave Hill Fiat. Let's just see. Or like Dave Hill 50 Cent. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You go search all that stuff. It's around. It's all old now, but
Okay. Would it be like, is this you? I don't know if this would be you.
that's my shot. Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's
That
so
was
much
a
different than what you're doing now. I
it's
don't
a
know if
Fiat like floating. We actually lifted that car up in a crane, like had lights hanging from a huge
whoa.
crane. It was like massive production. It's like what I do now is night and day from that era.
This is so
Um,
different from your style now.
so different. So I say
So
I got like
different.
known doing these like crazy composites, and like one day I'm just like no more. And I feel like the industry kind of got to that point too, where stuff was changing, times were changing. That kind of like hyper real, over the top photoshopping stuff was like out, I think, by then, and I was done
Yeah.
with it. So I let it go.
That's a that's a crazy evolution though. You guys, you're gonna have to go find his old work. Just stalk him. Dave Hill, Fiat, 50 Cent, whatever was from that time period. I want to see
Yeah,
one
it's
of the hip hop covers. Who would I
go to
look
Dave
up?
Hill, G Unit TOS. I think it's the album TOS.
Dave Hill,
Um, or you just put G Unit
TOS.
TOS. It'll come up as the CD package shop
Let's
or buy a car.
see. Oh, I mean that's not quite as outrageous as the Fiat being like in the sky,
No,
right?
that's just like, yeah, that's it. That's just kind of like hyper real lighting, but they're all shot separately. So it's like a little faker
Oh
than you could ever do in real
wow.
life.
That is a lot of
Um,
work.
yeah, tons of hours of Photoshop. I was just sick of Photoshopping at some point. It was all
Yeah,
shot on
I
a
mean this
tripod
makes
too.
sense that these were all like CD covers. Like they're giving CD covers. Was this one you too?
I can't see that one. I don't know what's going on there. I don't think so. No.
So
I mean, a lot of people were
wild.
doing that same style by then. So a lot of the rap covers kind of look similar, but you could be like Young Jock or Soldier Boy's first albums are all in there. But yeah, go check it
So
out if you're
fun. Well, you guys
blast from
go
the past.
Google all of that. That is a flash of the past. Talk about like early 2000s, like key photographer right there. I feel like that is, if anyone were to be that, it would be you.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
know
I
what I
think if you look at
mean?
my career, that was like the most hype I feel like I had in like a public sense. You know, like, I was doing
Mm.
like interviews and all that kind of stuff a lot more than I ever did after that period. So,
Mhm. Well, I freaking
um,
love the work that you're doing now. I think it's so
thanks.
unique and like the lighting and the tones, like the tones are giving film. I don't know, are you shooting a good bit of film or are you shooting
Yeah, I
mostly
shoot a lot of
digital?
film. I've gone through waves,
Okay.
but I've shot, I have like just binders of film at home. Yeah, I did in the last year. I've shot probably 100 rolls. I don't know, something like
And even
that.
the
So,
colors digitally, I'm very impressed by. Like the
well, thanks.
tones that you're giving are giving just like such a good warm tone that I don't feel like you see everywhere, or at least I don't in my career path.
Cool. Well, I try to make everything kind of neutral with like a Kodak Gold aesthetic, I say, but
Yeah.
it's all relative, right? But yeah, I like my skies to be nice and blue and skin tones to be warm, and it's always
No, this is
a
wonderful.
progress, with coloring. It's always changing a little bit, but
How do
thanks.
you feel like the journey of evolving to that extreme? Like your agent was on board, but I think a lot of people probably, obviously, as artists, I think all of us are evolving constantly, probably changing, even kind of like you did, like almost career paths, almost styles, whatever way that we're changing. I think a lot of people are terrified of that. It sounds like you maybe weren't quite as scared. Then again, this is a long time for you that you made that change. Maybe you were scared in the moment, but how do you feel like that evolution like genuinely actually was for you, and was there anything you did that could be encouraging to someone wanting to make a change like that?
Gosh, I mean, I think in that time period, I was doing less like personal shoots on the side in like a natural style. I was like still doing my commercial work. And I think that kind of proved to me like, look, I'm good at this still, or not still. Like, I'm good at this stuff. I can do it well. I can compete in this kind of new realm. And it kind of
Mm,
gave me the confidence, I think, to like go to my agent and be like, look, I have this like new portfolio I built over the last year or two that's like half of it's on film. It's all very natural. Like, what do you say? And even if she was like, no, I feel like I had the confidence to like push back and be like, well, I've tested it. I've shown that I can do it. I was just guessing, I didn't like drop my whole career on a guess. Like I knew
yeah.
my skills in that world as well. So, oh gosh, I mean, I think follow your curiosity. I think like when you just feel like you just don't want to do something anymore, you have to do it. Then as an artist, that work's going to start to suffer.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's always a little scary. I mean, Instagram has gotten to a place where it's so scary to like break out of your mold. I feel like in the same way where let's say I'm bidding on a bunch of jobs in this very specific kind of markets, and like I want to show some new stuff. I'm scared to death of posting new work in a new fashion before I get the job or not. I'm like, what if they see my last post and they're like, oh, we don't like that. We can't hire this guy. Or so I'm always like trying to time my new work and new posts on like what I think clients are gonna like. I feel like it's not the right process. I think just like
Mm,
do what you love, throw it out there a lot, and like let the cards fall where they may. But I can't tell myself that even like that's what I would tell someone else.
mm,
Um, it's just not get so caught up on like what are people gonna think or what is my old clients gonna think of my new work or future clients gonna think of it, but just like shoot what you love and like it'll come through to
mm.
somebody, to some client. Um,
And it's okay if, well, it's not the most fun if someone wants maybe like a past version of you, but I mean, if you say yes to it, freaking do it. You still know how to do it. It might not be as creatively fulfilling, but you can still do it. You can still, make that paycheck and then use that to do a shoot that can help build the portfolio towards the next evolution. You know what I mean?
no, I think so. I never said no to a job, like almost ever, like unless there was some real reason to, but I've always said yes to any kind of creative brief, if they're paying well. I get a lot of people now who will see my work as it is. Even now, it's kind of diverse. There's some stuff that's like 28 millimeters and kind of looks like it's on film, and some that's like
Mm,
a little more like hyper real colors still, like on the edge, and like wide angle and like bold. So they'll be like, "Hey, we love your 20 millimeter stuff. We want to make sure you're not shooting fisheye or wide or too ridiculous, like energy, like more subtle and like realistic. Or I get the opposite, like, hey, we want your fisheye stuff only or your wide angle. So I'm kind of like always, even now, juggling two kind of personalities inside me
mm.
and kind of like chameleon, with whatever the client wants at that point. So I don't know. It's kind of always gonna be that way a bit.
Now, Dave doesn't actually know that much about me or what I do, but I'm mostly like a wedding photographer. So when people hire, I say mostly because I do so many other things, but when it comes down to what I'm taking photos of, when people hire me, it is very much so what I want, since it's not like a creative brief. I'm not bidding for a job. Like, it's very much so we're hiring her and we're trusting her and she's going to do it, however she kind of wants to. So I feel like evolving as wedding photographers, I honestly think it's quite easy. Like, if you change your editing style per se, because that can happen, like I might edit the same as when the client hired me, of course. But outside of that, we have probably some of the most trust of probably most any industries. I mean, yes, it's someone's wedding day, but when it comes down to no one's telling me what to do, you know what I mean? How would, if someone wants to get into commercial work that's listening to this, how would you say for someone that maybe hasn't done it yet or wants to do it? Like, man, how do I even word what I'm trying to say? Basically, like, obviously, they're going to tell you, we want this version of you and not this version of you. How do you juggle really executing that well while staying emotionally attuned with like being happy and proud and enjoying the work? Does that make sense? Coming from a world where like I just direct and everything I do is my decision. Do you know what I mean? Like, I guess this could be working with a team kind of question, but I think it'd be insightful for people listening who are probably mostly wedding photographers who would probably find this conversation really interesting on like the commercial side or even fashion or the side of the industry that I think a lot of us could endeavor into one day. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Are you asking like what when you have someone who's like paying you and maybe don't line up exactly creatively, how do you
Yeah, I mean,
kind
especially
of
for someone like you with
thread that
such a
needle?
unique vision. Like, I do, at least looking at your work, I feel like you probably have such a like a you power. When someone's like, "Hey, we actually don't want it moving." I get you've been in the industry forever. You're going to follow the brief. But like, how do you find that balance of staying true to who you are with such large brands working with you?
I mean, I tell everybody like, look, you're gonna get like what you see here. Like, I'm not gonna show up and
Mhm.
like half-ass this shoot or do it differently. Like, I have a very specific set of directions and approaches at this point, for better or worse. Um, and it kind of ends up that way, like they might have a very different brief than last client, but like somehow the shoots feel similar, that kind of thing
Mhm.
where I kind of take everything they say with like with a grain of salt, like a little bit of like, okay, okay, like, sure,
Yes,
yeah,
at the end
I,
of the
I
day,
got it,
you
but
know
like
what
I'm
you're
gonna go do my
doing.
thing no matter what. So we're just sitting here
Yeah.
talking, and it sounds nice, but like I'm gonna go shoot the same way. I always do, I mean, I will take like notes, and stuff into consideration. Like if they really want a lens choice, or some kind of angle thing, I'm not gonna say, yeah, I'll do 28 millimeters and I'm gonna go there and shoot it wide. They're gonna know, So yeah, I think those kind of conversations, and then I have to kind of lean into like what I love about like the constraints I have. If they're saying, I had one of my biggest clients last year hated magic hour, hated low sunlight, and I was kind of like,
Mm.
I love like when the sun's like about to set, but you're not shooting into the sun. You're just shooting like a nice face when the sun's kind of low. Like looks freaking awesome, especially when you get people moving. So you kind of go like, all right, man, and then you go do your best you can in broad daylight and give them the same kind of energy, but maybe not your preferred lighting.
Mm.
I'm not really an arguer like that. I just kind of like
Yeah.
try to like interpret what he's saying and just like do the best I can with it.
No, for
Um,
sure.
but it's never a perfect process. But I think yeah, just embrace the constraints you're in and like try to give all yourself to those constraints. If someone said you're in a studio all day long, no sunlight, make it cool. I'm like, okay, well, that's not what I usually do. But then how do I make a studio cool and still approach it in my same way,
Mm.
which might be doing the talent to move a lot, have something that's gonna pop and like a flash gonna pop and like have them crisp and sharp still, even though we have no sun. Like try to get that same
Mm.
energy and movement in the studio, so we keep that same mentality everywhere.
I love that. Would you say that you have a specific favorite, like, shoe or brand that you have worked with over the years? I kind of want to know in both styles. Like, if you had a pivotal one in your composition time, I kind of want to hear about it. But also in this new realm, if you have a pivotal one where you're like, that was just so good, whether it be fulfilling, whether it be you just really love the work that came out of it, like, it doesn't even have to be because of the images or the video that comes out of it. Just any sort of pivotal experiences you've had in both genres.
Interesting. Well, I guess I'll start in the past. I did a My Chemical Romance shoot when they like had this like Black Parade thing come out, and that was like
Mm.
the biggest band I think I shot at that time. And I remember we shot in California. I was still living in Nashville at the time, so I think I flew to California for that. Shot them in this dry lake bed, and like I remember, like I was literally there with my buddy, like just a friend of mine's assistant, and we like built this trampoline. We bought a trampoline at Walmart and built this trampoline, and like I remember waiting there with this built trampoline and our little rental car in the desert, and this like huge like motorhome came out with all the guys in it. And I was just like kind of freaked out. Like we're just sitting here in the desert, and like My Chemical Romance is gonna come show up with all their shit and we got to perform and like make it great, you know. And we had these people jumping on trampolines. It was all composite. Like the band was super cool. Um, and yeah, it was a success. You know, I think it looked cool. It worked out for us, and I just remember being freaked out like at that moment. But also it ended well, and yeah, that was like I think a big moment for me, is just shooting that kind of caliber of band, you know, back
Mm.
then. Um, yeah, I'm trying to think other stuff, like the Fiat thing, that first Fiat thing was like to see your stuff printed in Vanity Fair magazine, like triple spread, 3 pages was like, I felt like I'd made it. I should just quit, you know, like obviously I didn't, but like it
You're like,
felt
I'm
that way, you
done.
know, it felt like what else can I do, you know? So yeah, that was a big moment, starting with the automotive kind of thing for me. I think recently we had T-Mobile as one of my big clients in like
Mm.
2024 and 25. We shot like 3 big shoots for T-Mobile, and it was basically to rebrand our entire retail experience. So if you go to any T-Mobile store, you'll see my work like all over their screens, the video, and all their pictures are all like my stuff, like every store in the country, which is for
That's
me huge.
crazy. That's
That was
crazy.
like that was like a vindication of like all the work we've been doing, I think, for the last decade of like doing natural light, less automotive, more just like lifestyle stuff, which is automotive is like really cool, but it's such a niche that you can kind of get stuck in that and like rely on that. And like just shooting people out automotive felt freaky to me. It was like now they have to just like me, and like I'm competing against every other photographer in the world that shoots people, you know?
Mhm.
So T-Mobile for me was like a vindication of like, yes, that company, that size will hire me to like just shoot people. Wow, like that felt really cool, like an honor, you know? So
Mm.
that was like a pivotal one for me, of just seeing that. It was very wide angle, very energetic. They were like right in line with what I was loving. So it was like, it just felt very honest and good, you know?
That's
To
so
have that
fun. I need
everywhere.
to look up that I've watched some of your like videos on your Instagram and obviously stalked all of your images, but I'm like, I'm gonna need to go look at that specifically now. Watch me walking into a T-Mobile after this. Do you
Go
even
do
use
it.
T-Mobile? Who do you use? I don't have T-Mobile.
I don't. I use
He's like, I can't
AT&T. They try
say.
to get me. No, I can say. They're
Oh,
like trying to get me to do it, but I was like, no, I've been at AT&T for 20 years. Sorry.
be like, free phone service for the rest of my life.
Yeah, come on, right? No, I didn't get that. I wish everyone's like, you need a
Maybe
free
for
car. I'm
that, you
like,
know.
no. What?
I said, if
I
somebody
can
would
probably
maybe
call them.
give
Be like, hey
me,
guys,
hey guys, give me
I,
some free cell provider forever.
I
Yeah.
should have. That would have been smart, you know, because you know, in like
Honestly, if
20
it saves
years
money over time,
when I'm desperate and I have no retirement, no one wants to hire me until I'm 65. At least I have that free
at
cell
least
phone
you,
service.
yes. I mean,
Like,
my husband's cell phone service is like not cheap. I mean, he's with AT&T and you know, until you get a family plan, I feel like cell phone service is honestly like a lot.
no, it's like $90 a month,
Yeah,
or at
I think this
least.
is like 105 or something crazy. I'm like, yeah, that adds up over time, Dave. Yeah, when you're
Yes, I
retired,
know.
this could be worth it.
I know. This is like
Oh,
smart stuff, you know.
I'll be your consultant. Thank you.
Thank you. How
Oh
can I set up myself for
gosh.
retirement? That's what I'm thinking about these days. How do I pay for my
Yeah,
kids' college and retire well?
man. I mean, 20 years in, you probably are not the farthest away from considering those things. I think a lot of creatives struggle to probably ever retire. Do you actually feel like you will ever be able to technically peel back when you'd want to?
No, because you know, if you think about how much money you have to have in the bank just to like
Yeah.
live off the interest, but I don't have a retirement plan set up except for what I'm putting in monthly, if like on a savings account. It's not much, and I won't be able to retire. Like not any way my parents did. My dad
Yeah.
retired at 65, and he's like literally set till he's dead.
Hmm.
Um, you know, so I definitely regret sometimes like should I have gone to like a professional job that like in college, like being a photographer feels so cool, right? And everything else feels so lame. And then like those lame jobs start paying really, really well. And then like photography just kind of plateaus in your mid 20s, late 20s. And then you're like 45 and you're like, I don't what's changed, you know, like, all your friends who are doctors and lawyers are making 500,000, $600,000 a year, no problem, and you're like, "Huh, like, maybe there was a different trajectory there, like, with a longer game thing," but I was unable to do that. I just loved being out with
Mm,
people and, like, making stuff so much that, like, I never would've it's who I am, you know? I think just, like, being scrappy and, like, making stuff with people is just what I love and always have loved, and
I
for
mean,
better or worse, it's, like, who I am.
I think at the end of the day, like, I've had family definitely sacrifice probably a lot of their passions for a stable lifestyle, and similar with other people in my life. I'm like, I don't know who listens to podcasts. Just people. I know a lot of people who have given up everything to have a stable, very stable, comfortable life. And I think being raised in that, I'm so grateful for my family for their sacrifice. But I was like, man, if I can do what I love and support myself, like, gosh, what a dream would it be for my kid to be raised being like, our parents like pursued art and like did it. You know what I mean? Whether you did it and you are like, no matter the level you're at or how soon you can retire or how much you end up making, like the fact that you pursued an art form in general and like raised a family, I'm like, to me, that's just like, I feel like that's the ultimate win. Like, no matter what level it ends up at, like, it's not common, and I think it is very hard. You know, obviously, I think for a lot of us, the easier choice might technically be like get a stable 9 to 5 that pays really well with health insurance. You know what I mean? But
Yeah, I
I
mean, I
think
think
it's
there's, like,
so
this pressure
cool.
of, like, taking care of your kids in some certain level, you know? I don't think maybe kids expect or need that the way I kinda project on them and they do, you
Mm,
know? Like, I don't know if they need their dad to have a awesome retirement with a lot of money to get them someday when I die, you know? Like,
yeah.
but my parents, I think, are really concerned with that kind of stuff. I think I've inherited a lot of that fear and worry from them,
Mm.
of setting my kids up for, like, ultimate success, but, like, they're gonna have their own lives, and, like, they don't need me to, like, take care of them past a
They'll
certain
make their
age, you know?
own
Like
money eventually
yeah, like,
soon.
that's on them, you know? Like, they're humans, they're gonna figure out their own life and have their own trajectories, they're gonna not involve me, but, yeah, I don't know, kids change everything as you probably have
Yeah.
recently found that,
Yes.
you know, some people I'm envious of people without kids because they can just, like it seems like do what they want to do whenever they want to do it, and now with a kid, you're kinda like everything is somehow calculated and comes back to, like, the child and, like, how we can still pursue our passions, but, you know, not quite as free and fancy and loose and all that as we used to be. So, I don't know, how do you deal with that, being a brand new mom? Um,
I mean,
feels like the road crashes down a bit, right?
I definitely, in a lot of ways, like I have pivoted some. I wouldn't say all of it was because of becoming a mom. Like I definitely like when it comes down to just facts for everyone listening. Like summer school, not only is this community I'm so passionate about, but also hopefully as it grows and grows and grows, like is a also it's a portion of my income that is more passive. It does allow me to be home more. It's not completely passive. Obviously, I put work into it, but that was in the trajectory. But when I got pregnant, I was like, holy smokes, I got to actually figure this out and make this happen. So we do have like an online membership and retreats and workshops and things that I was kind of already doing, but I wasn't necessarily taking quite as seriously. And then with child, definitely took a lot more seriously because we were the wedding photographers. I say we because my husband worked in my business too for like 3 years. And there was a peak year. I'm like looking outside because it was when we lived in Tacoma and we just moved back. But we moved to Tacoma, we moved to LA, and we came back. And man, there was a season in Tacoma where we were never even in our apartment, man. I think we had like 35 to 45 weddings, most destination or travel, maybe not outside of the
Oh, wow.
country, but like within America, all of them were flying. And when you think of the weekends in a year, obviously there's some wedding photographers that do like 70 weddings, I don't know locally, but when you're traveling that often, it was also the year we got married. And it felt like I was either on a plane or I was sick or I was on a plane. And genuinely, also, that felt like the capacity I had to be at to make like a sustainable income. Um, And I was like, ooh, something needs to change. I either need to like pivot into the high end market or I need to diversify my income some. So I do some things on the side that, some people will never know about. That it makes it sound like I do illegal things. I don't do that. I just like help with different companies with marketing and stuff like that on the side. So I do some things on the side. But I think at the end of the day, like, even for myself, I would hope that working technically less in photo as a reliable income will free me up to create work I actually enjoy a lot more and will provide for the family in a way that maybe it wasn't. So that's a long tangent where some of it's loose, but basically I have diversified my income and I do things outside of photo technically. And it is a challenge though. I went to this networking event yesterday for like women and trying to meet people in this town that we moved to. And
Uh-huh.
one of the questions was like, oh, it was like, do you like what's something you have guilt around right now? And I was like, well, this is deep. Like, I didn't know these people. And, I think me and the person across from me both kind of said, like, mom guilt around time working, And then
Mhm.
we both were like, wait, we're not actually guilty. Like, we don't feel the word guilt. It's just like in this season, we're working more than we would technically want. And that just is what it is. You know what I mean? And so I definitely think like there's never going to be a perfect answer for any parent. And I think every parent, when you're an entrepreneur, is going to have aspects, whether it be income or time, that will be sacrificed in some ways. But for me, I think I'm trying to find that balance before at least she's able to speak. You know what I mean? Like find the balance while she's still young and figure out how can we be at a place where I can be home more and still do the things I love, which is crazy. If I end up in that place, that's honestly like a place that I think would be so beautiful because I don't think many ever technically get to hit that place. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think you have to get through these early years, you know? I think everything feels so heightened. I have a 2.5-year-old and also a 9, 11-year-old, and
This
the
toddler phase
2.5-year-old
is
is
crazy.
what?
The
It's
toddler phase is
crazy.
crazy.
It's crazy, and I feel like you have to keep reminding yourself, like, almost daily, if not weekly, just this will pass, and this little human will be more and more, something that doesn't need quite the, level of attention and just is more of a
Yes.
fun, sidekick as opposed to, like, something that just needs you viscerally all day long, you know?
Yeah.
And even 2.5 is very different than what you're at, which is, like, what, 14 months, so, um,
Is it
I'm already
easier or
seeing
is it
that.
harder? Two and a
I mean,
half.
the baby, like, the crying, like, temper tantrum stuff, like, still it's worse because she can, like, run and knock things over and, like, be crazy, but,
Mm,
like, we can also read books together and talk and go walk in a park and
yeah.
just do more active things, so I don't feel like I'm just taking care of this, like, thing. I can, like, actually engage and educate and, like, talk to and enjoy a little differently.
Mm,
And it just gets more and more. I mean, 4 and 5 are freaking awesome. My 9 and 11-year-old, like, we just like having like an adult friend almost sometimes, you know? Half the time it's just
that's
something
so
naughty, but
cute.
other half the time it's you can just like talk about real life things, you know? I think yeah, I think it just it's a phase, right? It'll never be the same as it was when you were, kidless, childless, but
Yes. I think about that sometimes with my friends that don't have children. I'm like, you better think about how you use your time because I took mine for granted. Let's be real. I think all of us did. I don't think you understand how much time you have until you have a child. And you're like, whoa, what was I doing with my life pre
I know
child?
you see people who are single, you're just like, wait, you have no one to be accountable to. You have no baby, no spouse. You can do whatever you want today. You
Literally
have a
whenever
weekend,
you
you do whatever
want.
you want. Like that's like
That's
mind
crazy.
blowing. Like how many dependents I have in life, how many things I'm responsible to. But yeah, I think you look at your time differently. Where back in the day, you might wake up at 10 or 11 and like work or not work till 8 or whatever you want to do. But now it's like I'm in the office at like 9 a.m. I leave at 5. I'm getting stuff done the entire time. So in some ways, you're a lot more productive, I think, because you have to
I actually
compartmentalize
will say
everything.
that. I feel like I work maybe harder, mm, but I have way less time. And I think it's just because you have to be regimented. Like you have to have a schedule. You have to like I literally have, I'm at my desk probably from like, yeah, 9 to 4, a good bit of week most weekdays, probably. And I think for a lot of photographers, never in their wildest dreams pre-child are they sitting at a desk like regimented from certain work hours. You know what I mean? They're just like
Hmm.
they're out at a coffee shop, or I mean, I still go out, but like they're out at a coffee shop, or like they just don't work for 3 days because they don't want to. I'm like, aha, I remember that. I remember those days.
Yeah,
But
I mean, the mental it's such a different mental load. I remember, like, like, say you have a project you're excited to get done, you have to get done. You would just kind of work
binge
until
work.
8 or work until 9 or, like, whenever you finished it, you finish it, right? You don't think about anything but just finishing the job and enjoying it, getting in a groove. Well, now it's like, you might be in a groove, might be enjoying it, and you're like, "Damn it, I have to go. It's 4:30 or 5.
Gotta
I
go
need
to
2 more
dinner.
hours." And you have to, like, pause, and pausing is, like sometimes for me, it's so hard to, "Alright, I'm gonna come back to it tomorrow morning and finish it."
Hmm.
I just, like, wanna power through and be done with it, but those times are gone, you know?
I was talking about that with my husband yesterday, actually, and he was like, "You should talk to a therapist about this." But it was basically kind of similar. Like when I'm in a zone, breaking that, it's so much harder for me to like go back in it. And it's so much easier if I can just stay in it. And it's just like that's just not reality, you know? But genuinely, that's one of the reasons I think our part-time daycare will change my life. Because it's like even small interruptions, like I have to like be focused on what I'm focused on, and I cannot. I'm like the opposite of ADHD, and I cannot be pulled away from that because if I am pulled away from it, I just can't get back into the flow. Do you know what I
Mhm.
mean? And I don't know what that is, but it's like I can definitely like hyper get things done, but it's so hard to not finish, if that makes sense. So yeah, the whole having to cut things off, it's definitely hard. And even just when the first 13 months she was home full time. So, for any parent out there with a kid running around while you're trying to work, that is that that in and of itself will drive you crazy.
Totally crazy. It feels like you're
Uh,
just, like, you're handicapped, you're doing what you used to do, but you feel like handicapped in a way.
but they're beautiful.
That's a
We don't
terrible
mean
way to
that in
look
a
at it.
bad way. But I also
I
think,
know.
yeah, if you are a parent,
Uh,
you're gonna be like nodding your head and you're like, I understand.
yeah, I say this
Um,
all within the knowledge of course, I love my kids, and they're the
yes.
best things ever, but I can complain about the transition from singlehood or
Oh
to
yeah.
being young married to, having kids is quite a bit.
Man,
I think one thing you were saying about compartmentalizing, it's interesting. Yeah, before you have kids, you might do taxes on Saturday morning until you get bored of it, and you might do this and that all weekend long, and then you can just like do stuff at random times too, And now again, I Saturdays are fully family, Sundays fully
mm,
family. Like there's really no kind of expansion of a 9 to 5 unless I'm actually at a shoot, physically shooting till late at
mm,
night. And I think I'm the kind of person who likes to finish things too. And like, if I'm editing a video, it's gonna take me 2.5 days. I just want to blow through that and work 15 hours a day until I'm done with that. But now I have to like do maybe 4 hours a day for 2 weeks, and then do 4 hours of other stuff that has to be done during the workday. And I have to like compartmentalize my days. Like every night before the next morning, I kind of go like, what am I working on tomorrow? Like, what's my first half look like? What's my
mm.
second half look like? Yeah, I don't love it. I love powering through things. But
I
it's a
think even though
necessity.
it's technically hard, it's also probably so much healthier for you as an artist. Like I have friends who will like binge at it, and I think at the end of the day, sometimes the work ends up being better when you do that, but also I just don't know. I don't even know for the project in and of itself. Sometimes, maybe it's good that you're not just behind your computer or whatever you're editing on for like 8 hours straight. You know what I mean? Like even though it's not fun, I feel like what you're doing probably technically produces a better result anyways. You know what I
It
mean?
probably does. It probably does. I think for me, it's like a coping mechanism slash addiction where you just like get in the groove of editing,
And
put
you're
on a
like, "I just gotta
podcast, and you're
finish."
like, you can
Yes.
like just, you feel like you can just like live in that moment, and
Mhm.
it is a bit like a drug. Yeah, I think having to be broken out of that moment over and over again is just like, yeah, but that's
Debilitating.
life, That's blue
Oh,
life. I'm just
100%.
selfish and spoiled at this point.
Man, over the trajectory of the 20 years, I wanna circle to kind of maybe like and maybe we don't have to end, but maybe like a wrapping up thought. Not that we're wrapping up, we can wrap up whenever. But I wanna know 20 years in, like, what is one of the biggest shifts you feel like you've seen that has just surprised you throughout your time in the industry? Like, I mean, you were pre-Instagram, now we have AI. Like, I'm just curious from your perspective, what is like a shift that has either surprised you or one that you were like excited for? I don't necessarily care where you go with this answer, but basically the industry is always evolving. You know, what has been something about the evolutions or a certain evolution that is like really maybe something that interests you?
Well, I think, looking back, I think it's what a lot of people will tell you the same thing. It's this the Instagram phone world that we're all kind of stuck in, that nobody can do much about. When I started doing like professional stuff in my like mid 20s, my I had a website and I would like post stuff on some blogs too and like get attention and other blogs would repost it and like I'll go read all the comments and like that's how my work got passed around. It's kind of like other blogs, other like even real magazines would pick it up and like talk about it, and I would make real portfolios and like we would mail them to people, to art directors, or I'd go in and do meetings. We would actually make promo cards, like 4 or 5 runs of these a year, mail out thousands of promo cards to everybody. And
I
that was
love
it. And I felt
this.
like what?
I kind of love that though.
It was cool. Like people worked in their offices. Like you know that any advertising agency who had employees, they were at the office. There's no other place for
Mm.
them to be. Um, and so I just like it was first of all, in a selfish way, it was easier to stand out then. There was less people doing it. I think back then, let's say you're just an average high school, right? And you wanted to have a career. Well, no one's shouting at you can do art. No one's talking about photography. Like you have to like see a camera and like know somebody and really like get into it on your own. There's no real payoff for getting into photography at a young age in a fun, quick, easy hit way like Instagram is. So you guys really want it. So there's a lot less of us doing it, and it was easier to stand out. But it still was a lot of big companies who needed photography and like for their websites or printed materials and stuff. So I miss those days selfishly of being a bigger fish in a small pond.
Hmm.
And I think once Instagram came out, at first when Instagram came out, it was like great because that old marketing, the old ways were still there, and Instagram was kind of a cool new way of like showing your work. At first it was like you could still stand out, but I think as obviously time has gone on, every young person has this app and goes like, okay, photography is a big part of the way I express myself now. Whether it's like a shitty photo or a professional photo, photography is how I express myself and where I get my adrenaline hits. So it's like
Hmm.
my own profession, whether it was plumbing or photography, who now has been like hijacked by like the common need and want and love of photography, personal photography. And it's just one more mix in there of a whole world doing it. So I feel like
Hmm.
in terms of like trying to find clients and stuff like that, yeah, they're gonna go to creators, they're gonna go to people who are like have a lot of followers and just shooting their own random stuff. And like they're gonna put their money into them marketing this stuff and not into like big advertising campaigns. It doesn't make any sense anymore. And I
Hmm.
totally get it. Like there's no right or wrong. It's just, yeah, I think I'm not prepared or wasn't prepared. I don't know nobody was prepared for photography in general to be just one of the most common things that humans do in the earth right now. And so it's like imagine if you're in the plumbing business and in 20 years from now, everyone plumbs and it's just fun. And you get a lot of like cred as a high school or college person, especially if you're attractive or shoot a weird way, like or something, you get like cred by plumbing. And you're all of a sudden like, well, everyone plumbs. So of course the plumbing rates are gonna go down and no one's, it's the whole thing is lost is kind of like mystique, I guess, in a way.
Hmm.
Again, which is great. The whole internet has like democratized everything, right? So we're all kind of doing it and we're all getting paid nothing. Like, so I think like that's the future is I think like looking back at some of those fiat jobs and stuff, like the days of like a few people shooting like big budget stuff is gone. And now it's kind of like the whole world is shooting smaller micro things. I just don't know where the future is for that huge group of people. Like where do they go retirement wise? Where are they going to be in 20
Hmm.
years? Like, that to me is, like, concerning if I was a young person, like, my daughter wanted to do it, I'd be like, "Okay, well, I know you love it, it's so fun, I totally get that, but, like, so does every single other person literally in the world?" So, yeah, I feel grateful to have started at a time where, like, the internet and at least Instagram wasn't a factor yet, but now I'm, like, trying to, like, tread water in that same reality as I age, um, and it's tough. I mean, half the days more than half the days, you just wanna throw your phone against the wall, bash with a hammer, and say, screw it all. I'm going back to like 2002, but like you can't. You have to live with what you got, and make the best of it and not be negative and stay positive and just try to like, sure, change things that you can, but there's only so many things you can change. Instagram is the only place I can exist in my work right now, besides my
Hmm.
website. So yeah, that's the biggest shift. I think that's like how I see it. Um,
I feel like there's probably a lot of
How do
people
you feel
like
about it?
listening that resonate with that. I mean, I am, the opposite. Instagram came out when I was in 6th grade, I think.
Oh my
Um,
god, that's insane.
so, Instagram was out before I had a camera, definitely. I got a camera when I was like 16, 17. Um, and yeah, everything went on social media. So I am quite the pain point for you, my archetype. But yeah, I mean, my entire career exploded because of Instagram. And even when it came down to teaching, most of the things I taught on in the beginning was using Instagram as a photographer, at least in the beginning. I'm not quite like using it to like grow these days, more so just to reach the audiences I already have. I mean,
Uh-huh.
I'm always down to grow, but I'm not like posting a reel every day. I just don't have time for that these days. But yeah, I mean, I was doing stuff like that. Like when I first started, it was like me in a tiny home eating my black bean burgers because I was poor. And like I would post every day. I'd wake up, make a little avocado toast, and post at like 11:30. This was before reels, like every day, and I would like engage before it and engage after. And that was like how I started my business. I didn't have any proper advertising. I didn't even have clients when I quit my job. Like I was just like,
Uh-huh.
I'm going to post online and I'm going to book work. Like that was literally what I thought. And it somehow worked. Within 6 to 9 months, I was like literally a full-time income photographer, which was outrageous. Reels popped
It's
up
amazing,
within
yeah.
that time frame. Like 3 months into that, Reels came online and I started doing that. And I think hashtags was how I was originally discovered mostly because back in the day they actually like worked and people found people on them. But yeah, I would like hashtag P&W elopement photographer and I'd like
Yeah,
literally
classic.
book work. Like some of my first gigs were
Uh-huh.
like thousands of dollars from, you know,
Well,
hashtags.
but
Like it's
clearly,
just
whether you admit it
crazy.
or not, you must have had some aesthetic or some vibe that was, like, really cool, like, that had to have, like, just someone else next door to you might not have had and might have done the exact same amount of work posting and then just, like, fell flat because it wasn't it
Yeah, and
wasn't
like
the
the
right
time
thing.
and place was definitely also good. Like the time that I came online and yeah, the vibe, I guess, like I and community. I think community has always been a part of my life. Even with me now having a community, it's like when I started for fun in college, like before I decided to, try and shoot weddings, elopements, or things like that and actually have people pay for things, I was kind of just like in like the landscapey, like maybe when you think like landscapey in film world, kind of like I'd hike with my dude friends and we'd all meet up. All the photographers would meet up and we'd like take photos on trails. And I don't hike anymore, guys, but I'm not opposed to nature. But that was just like a phase of my life. And I actually think it was a phase of a decent amount of photographers' lives. There's a lot of us that have gone through that, like nature
Yeah. I remember that
world.
Pacific Northwest style, that whole, like,
Yeah.
2016 to
Yes,
era,
exactly. Yep.
2015, it was, like, such a thing.
Yes. I
It
still
always,
lived
like,
on
so
the East
dreamy and
Coast
cool.
back then, so we would go to like the Blue Ridge Parkway, and there was a whole group called like the Blue. I don't know what we were called, but we would all like go, and everyone, all of them were growing. I was just hanging out for fun, but they all were actually pretty large online and stuff for that time period. But then I was working in like nonprofits, just kind of in like mm, communications. I don't know, printing out Instagram posts, printing out flyers, taking photos, basically kind of the things that you needed to know to run a business. And then I was in college. So I moved to Oregon for that college internship to be accepted into the art program of where I was going to college. And then I got offered a job, but I never went home. I literally, me and my two suitcases, we never went back for our stuff. My family loved them. They actually moved me out of that house because I did not come back. And as a dad, you're probably like, oh my gosh, because my family was in Georgia. I moved all the way to Oregon at 19 and did not come back because I got offered a job. Said job, hated. And that was when,
Yeah.
6 months later, I had heard about elopement photography and had a friend who had made like $12,000 hiking. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll quit my job. I didn't have a single booking booked. I was like, well, if she can do that, I can do it too. And I just started
Yeah.
posting online. I like set up shoots at waterfalls and on cliffs and was like, I'm an elopement photographer. And it worked, which is crazy
That's
looking back
awesome.
on.
It
When I
takes a certain
say it,
amount of hustle, a certain
like,
kind of personality to go for that.
Yeah. I mean, definitely just like make the work you want to book and put it out there as much as you physically can. Like as much as is physically possible, in my opinion, if you're in a season of needing to book things, you know?
Yeah, because
But
let's say you're like 19 or 21. The most you can make at some random job is, 25 an hour or something like that. So you
yeah.
just tell yourself, like, I can book like one photo shoot a month. It's like 200-300 bucks and like literally wipe out like a part-time job just doing that. Like you don't have to like go crazy when you start. Like just that like a little bit of hustle and like you said, just post a ton of stuff, hit up a bunch of people and like get a couple gigs and like already you're like breaking even with a part-time job and keep
Yeah.
building on that and like you'll start to match a potential full-time job pretty quickly. I think if you have the drive and even half the talent of anybody else out there, like you could do it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think like I can see I see the reason why people do that. It's like as a part-time employee at age 20, it's just like, oh, I'm like literally sitting here watching the clock go by. I get $100 at the end of the whole thing. Like I could just hustle somebody on Instagram, shoot their picture, have fun, and get 200 bucks.
Mhm.
That's a win. So
And technically for the youngins out there who are like they were raised even more than I was on social media, it's like, guys, use that to your advantage because I mean, I mean, Dave, you're probably like, no. But, like for them, it's like they were raised with this tool that is technically at the end of the day, like we don't have to spend anything but our time. So if we have time, I think that is a very powerful tool. Like social media in and of itself technically is free marketing. Whereas when you had to print things and you had to mail them, like you actually did have to spend to be able to
yeah,
even try to put yourself out there. So I think the positive of the online space, while obviously it has made a lot of things challenging for a lot of people, the positive is that it doesn't technically cost you any money to post.
no. It's the barrier of entry is like 0. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, again, imagine, like, you're sitting there in Iowa and you're 18 and it's in 1999. You're like, "Oh, I'm a photographer." You're like, "I don't know what to do." Like, you
Yeah.
literally have to move to a different city, buy $3,000 a year and, like, shoot, like, 20 test shoots and then make, like, $1,000 portfolios, then start knocking on doors. Like, just to start. And now it's like, you got a phone, you got some cool friends next to you, like, you see some inspiration on Instagram, you can go start shooting,
Yeah. I mean, you can even be
and
a
make a following.
content creator these days. You
Or
don't even
what?
need a camera these days. You can even make a
No.
livable income just taking iPhone videos,
And,
which,
who's to say that's right or
yeah.
wrong? If you like it and it's fun for you, like, that's awesome. So, yeah, I think the barrier of entry is just anybody can go do it, and that's cool.
I
Selfishly,
think
I'm like, "Screw
definitely
that," but also I think everyone should go do it. Like.
you're like, everyone should do it, but also, gosh. But I
No,
also
I'm
think
just joking.
the part that to me is the reason you're still in business to this day is that you have a style that is different and is separate of a large population of people. Like, even if a kid just popped up on Instagram right now, I don't see kids popping up with a style like yours. You know what I mean? So I think that's one thing too is like in a world that is oversaturated, just try and stand out. Be a Dave Hill, LOL.
Oh my
Just try
gosh.
and like separate yourself from the crowd. Like, there's a reason I asked you to come on the podcast. So there's obviously a reason you're still finding work to this day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I understand the craft really well. I understand how to make an image. If I wanna go make an image of a certain style or attitude, I can go, like, kinda make that,
Mm,
without being a failure. So I kind of have a good idea of what's current. I work on mood boards and collecting reference images just, like, nonstop. So I always have, like, cycling images in my head of, like, what I wanna go for, what is new, what I'm sick of seeing, kinda like hopefully, like, pushing that, always pushing that. So, yeah, I don't have to have, like, a bunch of cool friends within a cool area to have the portfolio I want, at this point. I
mm,
can, like, create that fantasy life or whatever on my Instagram without actually needing that. I think that comes from experience. I think a lot of young people can't go do that right off
mm,
the bat. I mean, some can, but, yeah, I think that's taken a while for me to develop that ability, to kind of
mm.
go after and achieve what I want in photography visually. But I definitely every day question myself, like, what's next? I don't know. I feel like I'm out of ideas. Like,
Yeah.
where do you go from here? After every like styles come back around, what do you do? But I go back to my reference mood boards and kind of look through 1,000 more images, and like I find stuff that still excites me. I'm like,
Mm.
let's go back to that. Let's go back to that. Let's try that. Like it still like speaks to me pretty quickly. So
I love that.
I'm
If
confident I can be
you
inspired for at least 10 years. But
I mean, honestly, there's not a ton of I genuinely, or maybe this is just the wedding industry, you could correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know a ton of people that actually last over a decade. Like, I don't, there, I feel like I see more so people quit than I do see people continue. So I love interviewing people that have been doing it for, more than 7 years at least, because I think maybe it's my industry. Maybe we burn people out. I have no idea. Or maybe people are more in the wedding industry for money. I have no clue. But the wedding industry specifically, I would say like an average lifespan is only like 3 to 5 years. And I don't know what it is
Interesting.
about it, but I feel like people just don't survive super long in it. I
It
don't
must be
know.
like a combination of peaking, you know, like money peaks at some point, right? And like the types of jobs you have are so specific that there's not a lot of variation. I think you get kind of bored with the process, you know, maybe.
Mm,
Maybe you do it for a while and you're making 80, 100,000 a year and you're kind of like semi comfortable and you're kind of like, but now what? Like I could just keep doing
yeah.
this till I'm dead or now what, you know? So I feel like for me, that
Yeah.
would be the hardest part about doing weddings would just be the lack of future change. If all I did was actually show up and shoot a wedding, you know, like weddings themselves haven't changed a whole lot in 30 years. So do I want to be 60 years old, like literally showing up to a ceremony still 50 times a year, make the same amount of money? Like it's a career, it's something, but I don't know if there's like hope for greater. I think in my life, I've
Mm,
always had these fantasy dreams of like this happen, even though they don't always come true, or most of them don't come true. It's still like I have a hope of that thing, you know. I think if you're just
mm.
doing a wedding photography and like you have no other side business or anything else, what hope is there in the future besides just the same thing? Maybe more followers? I don't know.
That's not
Or
it.
maybe like people just kind of lose the hope of like what do you grasp onto in the future? Like where is this going to get me?
That's not a bad perspective. I mean, I had a season where I did feel like things got way too repetitive and I changed the entire structure of how I shot couples because, like, engagement sessions, because of a
Hmm.
fashion editorial that I did. And I was like, whoa, that was so cool. How can I change just kind of the process I'm doing with the engagement sessions to where each one of them truly are entirely unique? We have this entire couple's story to pull from. Why am I going to the same park? Why am I going to the same beach? Like, why am I not actually making it unique for those people? You know what I mean? Like, we actually have a whole story. Like, if ads and fashion editorials can make a whole story out of seemingly nothing, when I have an entire story to work with, why am I not actually leaning into that and just like going to the beach and taking portraits? You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
I
that's really
actually
cool.
did change that, and that has made things so much more fun. It's like I'll end up at like a bar with the couple, and then we'll like have a drink together. We'll shoot at the bar. We'll go on a walk. We'll go somewhere else. And it's like each shoot is actually, I don't know. To me, every shoot is different. And like you said, I'm like, I think for myself as well. If things are too repetitive, I get too bored. Like, I'm like a creature of change. Like, it has to be different in some way. And so I would say that definitely could play a factor in wedding photography as a whole and portrait photography as a whole. Like senior portraits or family photos. Like, I just could not go back to the same park all the time. Like, I literally couldn't do it.
No,
I would
yeah.
get so bored. I would just creatively hate it. So, but some people love that. They could do the same headshots for the next 20 years and they're happy. But
I mean,
that's
people
just
I
a
know
type
in
of
the wedding
person?
industry and family portrait industry, I know some people in that, and like a lot of people, not a lot, but the people I know in that are driven by like the business part of it and like less by the
Mm,
creativity, which is not everyone's like that, of course, but the people I know, they're like, they love business models, they love growing their back end. Like, that's like what they love, you know? And like they'll show
mhm.
up and shoot, and that's fun and all, but like I can see their passion really comes to life and they talk about like how to grow and expand their like back end models, you know? Like, I'm like, oh, okay, they have a different passion in the same world, you know?
Yeah.
And like you said, they might be fine going to the same park every week because they're more excited about like how to deliver the photos, you know, or how to like
Mm,
upsell people on frames. And so there's like, yeah, tons of space for different passions, I think, in the same industry. But visually, I think
100%.
creatively, for better or worse, like I've never had a side hustle. I've never made money on anything but like actually showing up and pressing a button, which is
I
scary.
love that.
So if my hand breaks, like I guess I gotta take pictures of my toe or something. I don't know. I just like that's like really the only like there's no safety net, you know. I have to
Have
like
you
show up
ever
and shoot.
had something like that happen? Because I actually, when I was first starting, I was also getting into snowboarding a little bit and I stopped. I never went back because the first time that I did it, I literally broke my wrist.
I
And
don't
then
know.
when photography picked up, I was like, oh man, I was also like skateboarding a little and I was like, I can't take the risk of injuring myself with weddings. You know what I mean? Like these people will be pissed if I don't show up or if I can't physically take a photo. Now I haven't had enough people trained that like I could toss someone in and probably just tell them what to do, but um most wedding photographers are not in that position that someone could do their job for them. And even then it would not be ideal. This would be like, emergency situation. But I actually don't do things anymore that could be of high risk of injury. And sometimes I wonder if I need to reevaluate my life. But I think I don't know. I just some things aren't worth the risk. I have not snowboarded since, and I was not super into it, so I guess it's okay. But I definitely stopped skateboarding. We have like uh little surf skates that we enjoy, but that's like I'm not going to a skate park. You know what I mean? I'm not going to injure myself, but
Yeah, I think you'd be fine. I mean,
I avoid
I've
things where I
actually
injure
gone to s
myself.
you what?
I avoid things with high risk of injury.
I think it's like you have to practically break it down. I've done this before. Like I've actually broken down like what injuries can I sustain and like how they affect different parts of my work. Not that I am risky at all, but to break my right arm, then like I think I have to like rig a button like on the left side of the camera or something to like hold my camera on the left side, right? But I
It
would have
has
to
to be
like break my arm and
possible.
not have finger usage. If I broke my arm and had a cast, I could still use my finger. I'm like kind of,
You're
you
like,
know,
I'm good.
and I broke my leg, I'd be in a wheelchair. I could have someone push me around. Like
Okay. So
if
you're
I was
not concerned.
blind, if I was blind, I would just be like, okay, tell me where the light's coming from. Like put the people out here 5 feet. Like I would make sure it's coming in focused. Like if I could probably figure out something. I have a
I'm
digital
good.
type be like, "Hey man, pan down. You're pointing at the
You're
sky.
too
Pan
high.
down." Like a little mic in my ear.
Dave is not
Um,
concerned at all. He's like, you know what? Give me any injury. I can still
I've thought it all
execute.
through. I'll figure it out. Like as long as my brain's working, like something can happen. Like I can
Oh,
describe it. But
that's
that's a good
so
point. Yeah,
funny.
it's very physical based, right? Like my dad would always be like, because my dad's very practical. He's a scientist. He'd be like, "Why do you have to like have your business model be about going out and shooting? Why can't you like have a lot of photographers all shoot your same style and they go out and like?" I'm like, "Dad, that's not how it works." It's like
That's a real
it
thing in
should
the
be
wedding
just train them
industry.
all. It's what?
That's a real thing in the wedding industry. There's like associate
Oh,
worlds where people
well, that's
like
smart
train
because
teams and they shoot for them, basically.
that's again a smart business model. My dad's like, "Why are you working harder? Why not work smarter?" I'm like, "Well, Dad, in my world, they're paying me to press the button. Like, I have to be there pressing the button." And he's like, "Well, that's a shame. Like, you can't make a certain amount of money. You top out, at a certain level."
Hmm.
I'm like, "Yeah, but I can't multiply myself." And
I guess you could
but
like, do you like license your images at all? Like, do you do anything that's not
um,
portrait that can bring you some sort of passive? I was trying to think
not
things
like on
that
an
wouldn't
automatic
require you
website.
taking a button because that would be interesting. You know what I mean? Like a good licensing deal.
Well, I mean, even this week we're working with a company to license a bunch of photos. So like I will get hit up like on old shoots to get like license stuff like per client basis, but like not like on a website where it's just sitting there with a fee on it. I talked to a few people like that and it just doesn't the potential doesn't outweigh like what it does, I think, to my name, hopefully. I'm thinking
Mm.
like I don't want to be able to like sell my name for $500 to a company. Like I have that come up on Google. Like I just like don't want to
Mm.
there's probably some reasoning where that would be like a great thing for me, but like I feel like I haven't been able to like work with my agent and make that work. I feel like we're both kind of like scared to death of putting our names on something like that.
It would have to be
Um,
something seemingly outside of what they could get working with you, almost like really good work in your style, but they would still need to hire you if they actually wanted something that fit their brand, but more so like, for menial things that would make it worth having them sell. You know what I mean? I'm like, maybe it's less portraiture, more landscape or product or something that you could still enjoy. This could be a partial retirement for the kiddos. You know what I mean?
I mean, every like week I think through like what passive income things can I do? Can I make an app? Can I make a product? Something. And I feel like I always get like halfway into a thought and like a bid comes in. I'm like, all right, I'm doing a treatment. I'm like, I'm gone. I'm back into my same old world. I've been doing for
the
20
struggle of an
years. So
artist.
yeah, they all seem like they'd be a lot of work to actually make successful, and you really got to commit to them. And I haven't found what that is. But sure, ideally, if I could work 10 hours a week on something that brings me 50% of my income, like great. Just
I
haven't found it yet.
did sign a contract with a licensing company where like you put your images on it and people can just pay for them and like it's actually like pretty large payments, but signed this a year and a half ago. I never uploaded images to it. And like I don't even I just like well, see, most of my work is portraiture. I would have to get permission or send them who it is and get a cut, and they would get a cut and all these things. And I don't know if I feel the most comfortable doing it with weddings in any capacity. Like these are paying clients who actually got married. You know what I mean? Maybe if the wedding client was just strange and was like, here, yeah. But you can do it with their cake, with their like details, basically anything that doesn't have a face in it, you can sell legally. But it just always sounded like so much work that I never actually sat down and uploaded the images to it. But if I had proof that they would sell, I could tell you and you could work with them. But I have no idea.
Well,
I could.
maybe it's the same company. One of the kind of company I've talked to in the past. I've talked to a couple recently, and I have some friends who are also like, I say repped by them or are on their website, and like hearing the real numbers like they're getting, and these are people who have good work, was like so minimal to me.
Where it's like, is it worth
Uh,
investing in uploading the
I was
images?
like, oh wait, that's what you're getting? Like, oh, that's like a whole nother level of like no to me. I think like I heard that and I was like, yeah, because I have everything I have has like usually an agency model that I have to go to their agent and like ask for like licensing and they're always going to be like $10,000. Like they'll just charge ridiculous amounts. So
Yeah.
I would have to like basically generate new work with like people with buyouts up front, pay for them out of my own dime, and then like hopefully license that stuff. And then I heard the returns that this like one guy was getting. I was like, oh no, that's just gonna take me away from there's no
Yeah.
future there.
I think that's
I
kind of
was
why
like,
I never uploaded my own portfolio, because once I said that I'd signed, they people were like, "I don't actually make too much." I'm like, "Is it even worth my time?" Like, I just don't know. I want it to be worth my time because it sounds great, but you know, who knows?
and the rates were like they were offering like 30% on like the full
Oh,
like
I feel like I don't. I feel
I
like
was like
mine was larger.
30%. Like,
We'll have to chat after this. All the companies that we
yeah,
both talked
for sure. I was just
to.
like, I don't know. I feel like that was just like a distraction. I was like, that seems like some fantasy. I mean, maybe some people are making okay money at it, but like no one's rolling in it on these anymore with AI and stuff. I think even Getty and like the big ones like hardly pay peanuts. So I was like, that's not my model. I'm not gonna go there. Um,
Yeah,
but it's tempting. It's for sure tempting when
that is
you have a
interesting.
bad
Yeah,
month.
I do feel like licensing will take a big hit to AI, because why? When a company can just generate an image, if they know how to generate it well, why would they pay for a more like licensed style image online? You know what I
And let's
mean?
say you're like an orthodontist and you're in town and you don't give two shits about art. You're a
Yeah,
business and
they're
you want
not
to
gonna.
clean teeth. You're gonna go in there and find an awesome AI generated photo of a dentist or a orthodontics thing. You're gonna pay $50 for it and like move on today.
Yeah, or just generate it themselves,
Oh
if
yeah,
things
or
can get
that.
easy enough to prompt. I mean, I have friends who have made insane stuff in Nano Banana, and you know, you know what? I have tested it to see what it can do, and I do horribly at it. So like, I don't know how they're doing what they're doing. I think sometimes people do have an art in the prompting, but at the end of the day, once it does become easy enough for someone like me to actually use it and make something good, which I think it is, I think I just am horrible at prompting, I guess. But it was like so bad. But I was just trying to create a flyer for my 1 year old's birthday party. I was like, I don't have time to actually make this. I'm just gonna tell Nano Banana what I want and see if it makes something cool. And it was like the corniest thing I've ever seen. Um, but I have friends who have created like like really realistic like wedding images. And one of them was on the podcast. And I was like, this is crazy. I'll have to send it to you after this, Dave, because it looks like film. Like it doesn't look like a good wedding image. It looks like gritty, grainy, like imperfect, like which I think that was like the way more shocking. But yeah, I've actually
Yeah,
never thought
that's
about licensing
crazy.
as the one world that would potentially take a hit. I think at the end of the day, when you have a unique style, especially like you're not going to be replaced by AI. But and weddings aren't going to be replaced by AI. But licensed images, I could see that one going. I could,
Yeah. And
yeah,
I will for sure hit everybody at some certain level. Just like I think the everyone's doing it kind of thing hits everybody. So I think it's like all those factors. More companies able to like license AI images, more companies be able to generate AI campaigns, more companies not caring about getting labeled AI user. Like those kind of things will start to really I think impact. But like weddings will never be impacted by AI. Like
yeah.
that's one like because you're like shooting someone's real thing. That's about as AI proof as
Can't have a
photography
robot
gets.
shoot a wedding.
Yeah, maybe the AI will like be the robot controlling the camera, sure, but the actual images will
Yeah,
never be.
I think potentially I had one of my friends raise this point that I haven't said on the podcast, so I think it could be interesting. She was like, I could see a world where one of the AI like editing companies that right now are positioned as a tool, which I don't have anything wrong with the tool. That right now are positioned as a tool where they, instead of positioning for photographers, could try and position like for clients, and then clients somehow, maybe this would be so wrong, but you know, a lot of wedding photographers in it for business. Like basically the wedding photographer has this cheap package where they just hand you over 7,000 raws and you throw it through X software, it culls and edits it for you, and there's a whole new genre of budget wedding photography, basically. Like way
Wow.
cheaper. The client ends up processing the files on their own because they are now given a tool to be able to do it. You know, like why couldn't a client technically throw something through? Even some of the softwares we technically have right now, they're not quite easy enough for an actual client to use. But someone was like, I think one day there could be a whole new genre of budget wedding photography where a photographer takes the image, but you literally just get the memory cards. Like the client gets the memory cards in the mail and they just process the images themselves. All these famous photographers have their AI presets. They can click and put whatever style they want on it. And I was like, that actually is kind of crazy. I never thought of those softwares ever having the potential to be used in that way. But I'm like, you know what? If the software can become user friendly enough, I don't disagree that it couldn't somehow be a whole new market one day. Not soon, but there might be a whole new market of budget wedding photography, which would be crazy if it dropped the prices of, you know, the average market down thousands, you know?
Hmm.
But
Yeah, I think
I'm like, that's
that's
not
interesting.
unrealistic, especially if it became really easy for a younger generation to be like, oh, I'll just process them myself, especially if it'll
Yeah,
select all the good ones, you know?
when you have to really screw them over by shooting like overshoot the weddings, they have
Yeah, and
30,000
just shoot like
images, and then they're
4,000 images so that you don't,
like
for
crash
like,
their system, you know? Be like, here's
yes.
30,000 images. Sorry, good luck.
Yes, literally. Yeah. Yeah. But, you know, I think things like film, like I shoot a lot of film, like there's, you know, AI can't replace that. So, you know, I don't think that'll happen anytime soon, but I think it's not an odd idea. And I actually am surprised it's not technically, I even hate saying it on the podcast. So someone's going to be like, oh, that's not a bad business idea.
Yeah,
Like a
someone's already
software
going to do it
for the
right now.
client, not for the photographer. And I'm
Uh-huh.
like, whoa, that'll be wild when photographers are like inquiring and they're like, no, but I only have this much because I actually don't want you to edit the images. I'm going to do it myself. And it's like,
Like,
oh,
yeah, at this point, you'd be like, good luck. But at some future point,
in the
it
future
could be an
point, like
option.
it might be an option. Yeah, man. Well, to circle back to your journey and away from AI and all those things, I want to know if you. This is kind of to wrap us up. If you had something that you would have loved to have told like younger Dave when you were getting your start, you know, that you would want to tell him now, what would you maybe want to tell that younger version of you? For anyone listening that is getting started and is
Oh,
like, you
gosh.
know, looking for that wisdom, like what would you want to say? Probably whatever pops into your mind first
No, I have
is
so many,
what you
it's
want to
like,
share,
I have
you
so many
know?
personal things I would say to myself that are not appropriate for this podcast. But, huh. I mean, it's like, what age do I say? I think, this is like off the rails a little bit from the photography stuff. I really wanted to make films a lot in my life too.
Hmm.
Like I wanted to direct. I want to be Spielberg, at some point. I wish I had done more writing in college and like more active like filmmaking, like making stuff in motion
Hmm.
earlier on. It took me a good 10, 15 years to get into that seriously. I kind of dragged my feet. Photography was like fun enough and engaging enough and pay well enough to kind of make me distracted from that whole side of things. So um, yeah, and I think also I grew up in a Christian household. I'm a Christian, and I think my earlier like beliefs and youth group mentality really like stunted like the things I was able to shoot. Like I couldn't even
Hmm.
like shoot fashion. I felt like it was too like edgy, or it just was like a weird hangups about that kind of stuff like early on that like I wish I didn't have.
Hmm.
Things I would write, I think, had to be a certain moral ethic in them. This is like in '99, 2000 and stuff in college, but I wish I just pushed boundaries more, not care what parents think, not care what people think, and written more. Yes, that would be my answer.
Hmm. I think the push boundaries one is huge. I also grew up very religious, and I can totally relate with everything you said in a good bit of ways. I mean, I'm from the South, so, you know, I grew up Southern Baptist and, definitely probably didn't, like, get too adventurous too soon, but, I think for a lot of people listening, it probably can hinder some creativity in some ways, especially it's not like that it's hindering the creativity. I think it's, like, your fear of perception more than your spiritual beliefs. You know what I mean?
Totally. It's like your own beliefs get so intertwined and enmeshed with perception that you don't even know where one begins and one ends, you know?
Yeah.
And I had, like, great parents. I still think they're great, but, like, they were just in their own bubble and did the best they could. My grandpa was a pastor of a big church in Orange County, so I was the pastor's kid, a grandkid. That was, like, my identity growing up, like, and
Hmm.
so, yeah, everything was about, staying in some certain bounds, I think. I mean, even today, I'm 46, and I still feel some of that
Hmm.
circling around inside me, whether I admit it or not, you know?
Hmm.
I'd envy someone who's 19, moves to LA, doesn't give a shit, and, like, goes
And
and
just
shoots
does
wherever
whatever
the
they
hell they
want.
want and
Yeah.
posts wherever they want. It just, like, feels like probably a train wreck. I mean, who knows what they're gonna be when they're 46, but I do envy, like, that attitude of, like, "I'm just gonna do what I want. I don't care what people think," you know? Like, because
Hmm.
I completely care what people think and or thought, and yeah, um, I never felt, like, completely free of influence, you know?
Hmm. Well, guys, don't care what people think and just do whatever you wanna do. Hear it from Dave. Don't care what people
Oh
think.
gosh.
Obviously, don't go off the rails, but yeah, I think that's
Or
such a
maybe
good
go off the
point.
rails, just don't get
Yeah,
in trouble and go to
just go
jail.
off the rails, guys. Hear it from us. Don't tell anyone we told you to do it, but go off the rails. Have a good time, like, especially when you're starting your creative journey, like, yeah, I mean, I probably went
I
off
mean,
the
creatively,
rails.
don't
Let's
go
be
do,
real.
like, don't be just don't be a party or do nothing with your life. Like, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, creatively,
Allow
like,
yourself
make
to
stuff,
express.
give yourself permission to, like, make whatever you want with the camera. Like, literally go
Mm,
make it, go write it. Like, if it seems crazy, weird, what will people think? Lean into that more, you know? And, like,
yeah,
really sit down, maybe journal. Like, what are some things, like, I could never imagine doing? They just seem so crazy, you know? Like,
I
I don't
love
know.
that.
So,
Man,
I should do that more too, but it
I need
helps.
to do it more too. I need to do more personal projects. That's like my 2026 goal is like you even said, sometimes it's easy to fall into some of the business end, especially in my industry. And I definitely miss, man, when I first started and I just did whatever I wanted, even if it was horrible. Like I just had an idea and I'd do it. It didn't matter what anyone thought because I didn't have anyone that cared. You know what I mean? There was
Yeah,
no one
for
that
sure.
could care because there was no perception of who I even was as an artist. I could just do whatever I wanted and shared it, and people liked it. And I just continued doing that. And I think as you grow and evolve, sometimes that fear of perception can even get worse because you feel like people have you maybe in like a box, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Also,
my
when you're married and you have kids
2026.
and stuff, it's like, "Hey, I'm gonna go shoot this random thing that has no potential value financially and take 2 days to do it or 3 days and $1,500 raw money." It's kinda like, you gotta sell it, you know? It's a whole different barrier of entry
Mm-hmm.
to personal projects, I think. The more you have responsibility and personal attachments in life, you have to kinda make a case for it, you know? And
For
then you kinda
sure.
just shut it down. You're like, "I don't wanna fight that fight or deal with that, so
We feel that.
I'm
My
just gonna,
husband
like,
is
bury it."
also he's also an artist, and I feel like we feel that probably more even with him sometimes probably because, like, producing an album, it's like, if anything, it costs money, you know? Like, him trying to
Mhm.
get an album done, it's like, it costs definitely time, most likely money soon, and you know what? There might never technically be a financial reward of this, but it's like that's his passion, what he lives for, like, he needs to pursue that, you know what I mean? But it's
Yeah,
definitely
it's like, you can't say where creative stuff will lead you, you know? That could be
Mhm,
the outlet to his next big thing in so many different ways, whether it's like, "I discovered I hate this," or "I discovered I love it, I'm getting famous for it." There's just so many, but you just sometimes just have to do
mhm,
stuff, and, you know, when it's someone else's money or both your money or something, I totally get, like, the tension there, you know?
mhm.
Um,
Man, well, to wrap us up, in case anyone is
yeah.
audio only, I feel like me and Dave, I feel like we could chat literally forever now. I'm like, we could literally go on about many things, probably forever. But if you had anything you want to tell everyone, you totally can. But outside of that, I would love for you, in case they're audio only, I love for every guest to go ahead and just shout out where they can find you online, you know, whether that be Instagram, whether that be your website, whether that be some niche thing you want to tell them about, where they can just like find you and connect And then if you have anything upcoming you want to tell anyone about, I don't know, that you might be like, nah, go hit me up on Instagram. Like that can be all, but anything you would want to say, and then also like your handles and where people can find you. I'll have it linked all in the show notes too. But
Okay.
I like people saying it in case people are like driving.
Yeah, you go to davehill.com, my website. Instagram is instagram.com/davehill2021. Don't ask me why it's
Yeah,
2021.
I actually did one. I'm like, why? Why is it 2021?
Okay, I'll tell the succinct story. I used to be Dave Hill Photo, and I was just so sick of like being photo only because I was doing a lot of like hybrid film projects. And so I just wanted to take photo out of my name, and nothing else seemed good. And I was
Mhm.
during 2020, I was like, I just want to put 2020 in my name because it's the most disaster, terrible year ever. It'd be kind of funny. And someone else took it. Someone took Dave Hill 2020. I don't know who. It was already taken. So I was like, screw it. I'm gonna be Dave Hill 2021. And so it has no bearing on anything. It's random.
That's so funny.
Anyway, so that's it. Stuff coming up. No, I'm just working on commercial shoots, and I'm writing another feature film. I hope to get that funded. Yeah, I don't know. Just working
And
on like,
you're in LA, not in Nashville, but you were in Nashville when I met you.
no, don't tell anybody I'm in Nashville.
You are in Nashville.
Yeah, I'm in Nashville. I've
I'm
been
like
here
just like
for
doing the
5 years.
trajectory of all this Nashville, LA, Nashville, and I'm like, is he back in
No,
Nashville?
I moved back secretly during COVID. I ran away from LA. I was in Burbank for 15
Okay.
years.
We barely missed each other then. We were in LA. We just came back to Tacoma, so we were in LA for the past like 2 to 3 years. Like Larchmont Village-ish area, Echo Park,
Okay.
period. Echo Park, and then got pregnant, moved to Larchmont Village because it was, safer.
Yeah,
And
I
like,
get it.
flat, family friendly. But yeah, okay. So back in Nashville, if you were in LA, I was gonna be like, are you coming to the Visco party at WPPI since you were at the one at
I didn't know about
Imaging?
it. No, I haven't heard about it because again, I'm not in LA. I don't think Greg told me.
I know. I'm
Um,
like, it wouldn't make sense for someone to probably fly out all the way from Nashville for like a wedding and portrait conference. But I was like, oh, if you were in LA, I could see you just driving over.
yeah, I would, but no, I'm not. Sadly, I'm in the Nashville.
Well, we have a
For
good bit
better
of
or worse.
Nashville crew. So, Nashville people, go ahead and find Dave and don't tell anyone he's in Nashville.
Yeah, please don't tell my clients. They don't want to hire a Nashville guy. Just
They
kidding.
don't need
I
to
love
know.
Nashville.
Someone mentioned on my website in one part. This was literally yesterday. Someone inquired to tell me that I still had LA in my website. Um, and I was like, you know what? Actually, even though I had that, it's really not that big of a deal because I wouldn't mind shooting back in California. The budgets are higher than Washington. I could
Exactly.
just, if I had it in my website, okay, cool. I'll wave travel, I'll fly down. Like I have people to crash with. But yeah, it was just totally like I forgot to remove it from one section, but like we'll get there. And honestly, I don't mind if people still thought I lived in LA. I don't need to work in Tacoma, Washington. I mean, I
Just
can, I'm
leave it.
down, but I don't need to work here. So I kind
Yeah,
of love
leave it.
that about you. But man, well, Dave, it was so fun chatting with you. Everyone definitely go connect with him. I'm trying to think if I have anything that I need to tell anyone. At the point this is releasing, we will have just had our Seattle field trip. We're having a Tacoma one. We are having one in Vegas during WPPI. So at the point of this releasing, that RSVP should be live. Either follow me on Partiful, guys, or I'm sure you can find the details everywhere. I'll try and link it in the show notes if I remember. But outside of that, we'll have two more after that in Edinburgh and Birmingham coming up. Those aren't planned, so I'm not technically announcing those, but those will be the second and third week of March. And I mean Birmingham, England, not Alabama. Um, yeah, I think that's all. I'm like, man, update wise, so many events. So if you don't know what field trips are, definitely hit me up, DM me. But they're just meetups for photographers, parties, and every single field trip is different. Think of it like school. When you go to the aquarium, sometimes you go to the zoo. Every field trip is different, and I would love to have you there. And for now, all of them are free. So let's freaking go. But yeah, our first one was actually in Nashville. I wish I knew you, Dave. That would have been fun. But
Oh man, well, miss it.
next time, we'll have more. But it was so good chatting with you. Thank you so much for coming on. And for all you podcast listeners, I will catch you guys next Tuesday. Bye.